Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Forum Friday. Today, I have Mark Florke with me. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Lynn. How nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
How you doing?
Good. Are you ready for IBIE?
I am just about ready. I started packing already, even. Yes. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's just say I'm not ready yet. I got two presentations to make and I haven't even started on it yet.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yeah, I've always skirted those things. So I'm
yeah.
um
So, can you share with everyone what our IBIE Hub is all about?
yes, well, we do have a hub on Bakerpedia. So if you just go to bakerpedia.com and you'll see in the top right-hand corner it says IBIE Hub, and you click on that. And so there we have introductions for you of things that are going on, all things IBIE as we get ready to go to the show and while we are at the show. So there'll be constant updates of things, there'll be interviews, snippets of information, it's your one-stop shop to kind of see what's going on in the baking world from our perspective. There'll be myself, you, and several other baker ins who will be posting information daily. So it'll be really interesting and exciting.
Right. So, if you are going to be at IBIE and you have a booth and you would like our baker ins to go to your booth and shed some information and light on your booth, just give us a nudge. Let us know, okay?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you can definitely reach us at sales at bakerpedia.com.
Mhm. And I'll add one more thing is when you go to the hub, be sure to watch the introduction video and watch it all the way to the
All the way
end
through,
for a little surprise.
we have a surprise for you.
Uh,
Okay, so Mark, we're here today to figure out what's going on the forums.
it's so fun. I mean, I sound like a broken record the last couple of months, but it's the nice thing. There's so much activity now. I don't even get a chance to comment on all of the posts, which is a good thing because there's so much going on
It's a
and
good
all of
thing.
the members are sharing with each other. So that is really good. And we keep growing. I think I added a welcome message to 5 or 10 members almost every day this week. So it's been just crazy. It's good crazy, nice and fun. So a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
interesting
It's
things
been
happening.
crazy. I was like, wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah,
They keep coming.
yeah, they keep coming,
Wow, that's
and it's great to see that not long after they join, they're usually commenting or asking a question or something, and that's ideal. That's perfect, right? That's what we want to see.
absolutely. So the first question I would like to highlight is the one on hamburger buns.
Aha,
There
yeah.
is this question that talks about producing quality hamburger buns, and this baker was kind enough to list out his ingredient
Hmm.
formulation and some processing
Yep.
conditions.
Yeah.
What's your diagnosis on that, Mark?
Well, the my first instinct is first of all, very grateful that he shared complete information. That's all about
I
asking
wish
great questions,
everyone was
right?
transparent like
Um,
that.
so like
Yeah.
he was talking about how he wants better height, he wants better pan flow, and things, and he shared his entire formula in far as the percentage of ingredients that he's using, and he's using a dough conditioner and things like that. And my first thing as I look at it is it's too strong. He's got like a 13% protein flour, and then he's adding 1.5% vital wheat gluten. And we don't know in detail what's in the dough conditioner, but if there's like ascorbic acid in the dough conditioner and things like that, he's just getting the dough way too tight. And then he's reducing the water to 59%. for processing. So I see a couple of things there. I see that one, it's too strong. So probably needs usually for soft dough or what we call soft roll dough, like a hamburger and hot dog bun. It's usually an all-purpose type flour, 10 to 11% protein most of the time. And then the other thing is that if he's getting stickiness and processing to go through the extruder, that and he reduces water to overcome that, that makes me think he's not developing the dough well enough. Because if the dough is fully developed, it won't stick in the extruder. So I would say, first of all, get rid of the wheat gluten at the very least and make sure the dough is fully developed and try to keep it hydrated around 60 to 62%. Those would be the first things I would do there.
And I see some of the comments are really helpful as well, especially the one on dough temperature.
Yeah.
Yes. With that much of a high protein, high vital wheat gluten, low absorption, I can't imagine not having a 90 to 100 degree dough.
So it's yeah, and he did say he has watched some Bakerpedia videos and checked, so he is trying to keep his dough temperature down. So he's doing a lot of the right things. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the thing about it is, machinery wise, a lot of people struggle with machinery, mainly because they don't have the right dough. They don't have the right flowable dough. And when it gets torn up in the process, people think, oh no, my dough's too weak. So that's not always necessarily the case.
Yep.
Right. So sometimes your dough is just too strong and it just can't flow. Like what you said, the protein's too high, it can't flow.
Yep.
In fact, it's just too bucky, right? So a lot of things can be wrong with the dough, but basically keep an eye on the temperature. Make sure the temperature is right. Any kind of hot doughs, when you process, you're going to need more dough conditioners. You're going to need more yeast. You're going to have a hard time with the volume. All those different issues. I also would like to suggest keeping an eye on the baking process. The key about high profile dough buns is, number one, don't sheet them down too thin. When you're panning and sheeting, don't sheet them down too thin. Number two, make sure that your yeast kill is later in the process, somewhere around 55 to 60, so you get the rise in the oven. So those are the kind of things to look at when you're trying to get buns with higher profile and softer texture, is processing and baking as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the next interesting question, Mark. We have one on bread formula.
Yes. So here a gentleman has, I guess he's joining us in the industry, sounds like. He says he's purchased some bakery equipment, and so now he's looking for a commercial, or what he's calling a professional bread recipe. And so it's like, well, that could mean a lot of different things, right? So the first thing I suggested to him is, well, you could start off with a standard 2% recipe, which is 100% flour, 2% sugar, 2 salt, 2 milk powder, 2 fat, 2% yeast, and then usually about 60% water, right? Depending on your flour, it might need more, right?
Baker's percent, right?
Obviously, yes, absolutely, Baker's percent, right? And another member has also, given him some suggestions in terms of looking at the Baker Academy, looking for formulas on Bakerpedia, and he asked about preservatives, and it was also suggested to him, well, if you're making fresh bread every day, you won't need preservatives, right? If you only make enough to be sold within a day or two, if you're only selling locally, you're not distributing all across the country, you don't need preservatives, right? Doing a standard sponge and dough would give you, through the fermentation, enough pH drop that you're going to be able to preserve the bread that way, right? And then just sanitation, 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 right?
Correct. Yeah.
And yeah, the
So
food.
I would also like to point out that the Baker Academy, if you go onto our Baker Academy and look at the different Baker papers, we
Mm-hmm.
would have formulas on there as well.
Yep.
So just search Bakerpedia.
Yeah, and you can always, if you wants to make sure that he's certified in understanding what he's doing, you can always sign up for a course as well, right?
Absolutely.
Very
Of
affordable,
course.
and
Right.
you come out being assured that you have learned and accomplished what you need to know in these things, and not just opened a book and forgot about it tomorrow.
Right. Right. So let's go on to the next discussion on refrigerated dough this time.
Mm-hmm.
Mark?
And so here the question was, how long will a dough last? And so there's a bunch of different things. Some people say, well, not more than 8 hours. Well, of course, some doughs are retarded overnight or even longer. So the general consensus from several members is that anywhere from 12 to 72 hours, but 72 hours is about the max. The ideal is probably in the 48 to 56 hour range, because then it starts to get too acidic, and it has less desirable types of sour notes. So it's not the same as creating a sour that you feed every day to create a particular note. This is, if you just let it sit, it's basically choking itself off, and it's starting to run out of carbohydrates to feed off of as well, right? So that 72 hours is the absolute max. And, I would say somewhere 48 to 56 is probably the ideal range, right? And even then, that is going to be something that you're adding as a levain, as a rework into a dough. You can't just take a dough that's been refrigerated for 48 hours and then just shape it and try to bake it again. That's there won't be enough yeast.
Right. So that's my question is usually on the processing side of things, a lot of bakeries don't go that long.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a retail baker that's talking that you
Doesn't
don't
really
know?
say. It sounds like it might be a small retail or restaurant type operation, right?
Yeah.
Where some, it's as with some places, there's still sort of a post-pandemic adjustment taking place. And
Yeah.
what I've noticed with some business is that because of there's been so much difficulty in getting staff, that they just simply close on the slower days. So I've seen a lot of places that are basically closed Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They're only open Wednesday to Saturday, or just Wednesday to Sunday, if that is their busy period, to basically, with the number of staff they have, if they're working 4 or 5 days, that's enough for their hours, and then they need to keep dough refrigerated for 3 days. Well, you can do that as your starter, but that's not as the you can't make up the dough on Saturday and then expect to be able to bake it on Wednesday. That
Yeah,
wouldn't work, right?
that's true. Unless it's pizza dough.
Unless it's pizza dough, that might work. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the next discussion, which is Nanaimo bars. What is the
Nanaimo
Nanaimo
bars.
bar?
Nanaimo bars, something
Nanaimo
uniquely
bar.
Canadian in our group, and I didn't put it there. um, uh, so Nanaimo bars are quite popular in Canada. They are reasonably well known in a lot of the northern U.S. border towns, I would say, right? Through food service type distribution and things like that. They are somewhere between a cookie and a bar and a confection. They're kind of all three sort of wrapped up in one, right? And what they are is usually there's a base that is usually made with sugar and either condensed milk or egg whites or things like that, and coconut and cocoa powder. And that is usually cooked and then pressed into a pan as the base. And then a flavored topping goes on top that is sort of like a rich icing. It's basically a lot of sugar with some fat, like butter, and then your different flavorings. Some of them are cream cheese as well. And then there's a layer of chocolate on top, or some of them are Rocky Road with toasted nuts and marshmallows, and then chocolate over top of that. And they're cut into little bars, so they're
Sounds
quite
really
rich, they're
sweet.
quite decadent, and so they're a lot of sugar and a fair amount of fat. But there's nothing that typically gets baked. Some people do bake their bases, but most people do not. They heat it up with sugar and whatever their liquid medium is and press it into a pan. So the question is on these Nanaimos about trying to control or inhibit mold growth. So a lot of it is, yes, you could throw potassium sorbate at it and things, but the problem is the pH is not low enough for it to be effective. So the thing with most of things like calcium propionate and potassium sorbate, you need to have the pH below 5, ideally below 4.5, to get really good effectiveness of it. So the kill step is probably what is going to help here the most. There are also often raw rolled oats in the base.
Ooh.
So some of the suggestion has been to try toasting
Oh,
base
absolutely.
ingredients, things like the coconut, the nuts, the oatmeal. Doesn't have to toast it to get it brown, but toast it long enough, even at 200 degrees, to get a kill step, to just dry it out and get rid of the moisture and kill any organisms that are there before you combine it. From there,
Right.
then there's so much sugar, it nothing should survive.
Right. I mean, I was like listening to this, I was like, that's so much sugar in there that the water activity must be so low. But I
Yes,
didn't
yes.
hear that part about the raw oats, and
Yeah,
that's a
I think
huge,
their water
huge
activity was a little bit high too. Let
factor.
me just double check the post here. Um, and yeah, see the water activity is 0.6 to 0.07 to 0.7. So
That's
ideally, they
surprisingly high for
that's
that
high.
kind
They
of
need to get the
system.
water activity down 0.65 or below, right?
Below. Yep.
And by toasting the ingredients, that will help them get there as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if they can figure out some way to cook everything,
Cook it
you
more.
know,
Yep. Add
instead of
more
step by step.
syrups that won't
Hmm.
crystallize, and so
Yep.
that they can cook it more and get really low water activity that way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right. That sounds delicious,
So
but
I'll have to
a little
I'll have to
too
make you
sweet
some
for me.
Nanaimo bars when I come visit sometime.
You know, you should just bring some over to IBIE so that I could just get an idea. What in the world is a Nino bar?
Well,
Okay.
and Nanaimo is it's a city in British Columbia near Vancouver. It's a very
Oh,
picturesque, pretty area on the western side of the Rocky Mountains, and that's where it was originally created and got named after that city. And the name has always stuck. I can remember making trays and trays and trays of this. They were so popular in the 80s, right? And
you're like, I'm sick of making so many
yeah,
of
so it's
these
kind of
things.
like it's sort of how people got sick of Rice Krispies. I got sick of the Nanaimo bars for a while. they're they're extremely sweet, but they are nice. There's a lot of
They
different
should
ones out
keep
there.
well though. They
Yeah.
should keep well. Yeah. Oh, hey, we got one more question to go.
Okay.
This one is about the premix powder.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about premixes.
Well, as you may know, Dr. Lin, I worked in the premix business of ADM for about 14 years, so I know a little bit about premixes. So the question was about, what preservatives to add in a premix. Well, really, you don't need to add a preservative in a premix, not for the premix. There is really literally no moisture there. The only moisture comes from the flour that is in there itself. And even if you're using powdered eggs, they are sterilized and before they go into the mix. And as long as you don't need to get like more than 9 months shelf life, you can even use powdered eggs in that respect. The shelf life on premixes is usually the biggest problem is usually chemical leavening. And if you need to keep chemical leavening alive for more than 6 to 9 months, then you need to use encapsulated chemical leavening to be able to last longer, because otherwise it gets slightly activated by just the moisture in the flour,
Yeah.
and it
It's
loses its gas
it's
and
not
power.
worth, it is just not worth risking that.
Yeah.
Just use encapsulated to prevent the
Yeah. And
yeah.
so the preservatives that this fellow is saying, well, he sees in the market other companies are using preservatives, which just says there's preservatives in the mix. A lot of times that might be there for a special application where it's meant for a cake processor who wants to have that the finished cake has an extended shelf life. Then you would
Mhm.
add things like calcium propionate, and
Should
or
be.
potassium sorbate and things like that. But not for the mix itself. It's not needed, right? And so, what I would like to say, and this goes back to a little bit about asking good questions, is that, make sure that you inform yourself well. If you're trying to emulate something else that's out there and you look at the ingredient declaration, understand why it's there. Why are they, don't just try to copy it for the sake of copying it. Understand the functionality of each ingredient and why it would be at that level in the ingredient declaration, because the ingredient declarations are always in descending order. So, if you look at a product and the first ingredient is water, well, why do they have so much water in there? It's doing something, right? Or how are they preserving that water? But in a dry mix, most of the time, the first ingredient is going to be flour. Rarely, it might be sugar, but most of the time, it's flour, and then the rest of the ingredients in descending order. Um, and if it only says preservative, I don't know which countries that would be legal in, because to my knowledge, every country requires that it be spelled out specifically what it is.
Right.
Particularly,
Like, for example, EDTA or TBHQ,
exactly.
the
Yeah,
chelating agents. Yeah.
yeah. And in Europe, they're very, very strict. I mean, you have to have a specific E number for everything, and things like that as well.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
um, and a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, they follow the European Union guidelines. Right? Anytime I've dealt with Qatar, Dubai, and Israel, it's all based on European regulations. Right? Is what they use.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot, Mark.
Yeah, it's been
We
busy.
covered a lot.
And those are like just the few that have been the most active in the last couple of weeks, right? And
Right,
there's
right.
so many more. I mean,
Yeah.
if we had time, we could probably cover 2 dozen of them.
That's a question. Maybe we should cover some of these at IBIE.
That's a good idea. We could do that.
We'll just steal some booth space from somebody and we'll just sit there and talk.
Yeah, or just take a question and take it right to the supplier and talk to them about it.
That's true. That's a great idea. Yeah. Well, Mark, thanks for coming on today. It's always a pleasure speaking with you,
Thank you.
and
Same
it's
here.
always a pleasure seeing everyone participate on the forum. Okay, so don't stop doing that and keep the discussions going. And Mark and I will help out as much as we can.
Yep. And it's been great with everybody helping, and there's Roy and Yuri and Jim and so Jose. So many people have been chiming in, and Elaine. And I'm gonna miss so many. If I better stop there. It's been, it brings a tear to my eye when I see all of these
I
conversations
know,
going,
I know.
and
I
I don't
hope they
have to
all
poke and
stop.
prod and stuff.
I hope they all stop you at IBIE and just say hi.
That would be great. That would
Introduce
be why we
themselves.
would love to meet everyone. Right?
Same here. Same here. All right, folks. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.